Welcome to MING Presents The Re-Up, a conversation with the artistic mind.
Well, hello there.
Hello there. I should probably face my camera away from the sun.
Yeah, well, it depends on how you want the light. The light off the head might blind all our viewers, like two thumbs.
Yes. Hey, look at us. We're both chrome domes.
I know. It's a good look.
Yes, actually, I had a beard and a mustache for like a couple weeks. But
and then what happened?
All my stream listeners told me that they didn't like it.
Did you look weird? Did you look like some sort of I don't know.
I definitely looked older.
Yeah.
I look like, I still look like I'm in my 30s with, clean shaven head and face.
My wife likes my beard. She likes the beard, so I just keep it because it's easier. So
happy wife, happy life,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I probably look a lot younger without the beard too. It would look like somebody's dad, but what are you gonna do?
Well, you are somebody's dad.
I am. I'm two people's dads.
Right. Together we have.
It looks beautiful there. How's things?
It's it's another day in the life of 2020 here in California.
Yeah, California's ablaze, which is a little bit crazy, but it's not as bad, right, as Texas and Florida and Arizona right now, is it? Or
I actually haven't been looking at the numbers because I don't want to get freaked out. So
yeah.
I know that last week we had a record week here, and there's an outbreak at the San Quentin prison where like 1,400 inmates have it.
Isn't that where they moved some set of prisoners? They tested them like a month before, and then they moved some really asinine.
Yeah.
How are these people even running anything? I don't get who's making these decisions. They're just terrible decisions.
Well, I mean, I'd say that pretty much across the board, America has messed this up. And it's not a political thing. It's just,
no.
I mean, because, this is a Democrat state and it has tons and tons of cases. So it's not a political thing. It's just nobody was ready and nobody was prepared and there wasn't enough, PPE available for people. So,
yeah. Although we're starting to see that so many people, all the sycophants with their PPE and all this money given to these businesses that probably didn't need it, but
Right. Yeah. Let's remain neutral here.
It's very hard to remain neutral these days.
I know that we share the same beliefs pretty much.
Yeah.
But
I had an interesting conversation with somebody who's a friend of mine who I know has different political leanings, and we had a nice. I think we came together nicely in the middle. The conversation was basically like, look, I think we believe in exactly the same things. It's just that you're being told to pay attention to something else that I'm being told to pay attention to.
Right.
You're worried about statues and riots, and I'm worried about the people dying.
Yeah.
I'm like, but we both care about the people dying. You're just focused. You're being distracted by these. You know what I mean? This other issue.
Right.
And by the end of the conversation, I think we both sort of hugged it out and we're like, we are on the same page. We talked about gun violence. We talked, I think people are. I think people across the board, whether you're upset or worried about something, feel that certain changes have to happen anyway, regardless of where you stand politically.
At the end of the day, we all just want to live, and anybody who doesn't want to live, have you ever met somebody that doesn't want to live? Well, I guess that's.
Yes, we both have actually.
Right. Yes, of course we have. R.I.P. Bill.
I think people give up on living. I think what's happened is that young people are confusing freedom for safety.
Right.
People are tired of being pent up and staying home, and it's harder for them to focus, and they want to get out and live their lives.
Definitely. And that's what when I see people acting irresponsibly, I get it that they just, being inside for 3 months drove me crazy, and I actually have something to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? I stream 4 days a week, and And I had something to do, and I definitely was having a tough time just being indoors every day, all day, not having, my freedoms. And I think that everybody wants their freedoms, but at the same time, there's a huge amount of responsibility that comes with having your freedoms.
I think that's kind of what's happening is we're getting a viral check in what freedom means.
Right. Uh-huh.
Is that, and I think that this is not, I know we're all going through this one thing here, not to say it like all doom and gloom, but I think that this is the first of many things that are to come. We're going to have water shortages. We're going to have droughts. We're going to have, these are all the things that are coming around the corner because we're not slowing the machine down. The machine is not going to work in the way that it works.
Right.
So
like every year, the fires here in California get worse and worse.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of things that you could point fingers at as to why the fires get worse every year here. Not enough rain, it's hotter, etc. and so forth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely a lot headed down the pike for us. And, really, in order to not get overwhelmed by it, you just have to try to take everything day by day and not really worry about what's going to happen next month.
Yeah.
As we've learned, we'll get through it.
I'm very day by day these days, and I'm actually enjoying it a lot. Obviously with music, and we have releases and things that we have to schedule and all that kind of stuff to be ahead of the curve, and to make plans and all that. But in terms of living, it's kind of nice to be back to date, almost
Right.
day to day, especially with the kids and all that.
Right. Yeah.
Let's talk about Club Quarantine, because I think you really turned a situation, a Lord, like you had a new album coming out, or it came out, you had a tour planned. Like, talk about all that. Talk about what happened with the new album, and then how you took that energy that was going to be placed on the road and put it into this amazing live streaming thing that you really built it from nothing, which is amazing.
I sit here and I just say, I can't believe I did it, honestly, because, I've never streamed ever before. And, when all the gigs got canceled on one day, basically, I think it was, March 13th, all the gigs basically got kaput.
And that was the tour for Remedy. That was the...
Yeah, we had started the tour at the end of January to coincide with the album release. And just to go back a little further, we intentionally took off many markets in America last year so that we could come back fresh and have a really exciting tour. And also, there was a lot of time needed to make the album and finish the album, and that took a lot longer than we planned, so we didn't really book a lot of shows last year. So it was really disappointing to not be able to go out and perform these songs to our fans in, some of the biggest markets. And so basically the day that it all went down, I was really, really depressed. And I was like, I've got to figure out how to get online, how to stream. And I had no idea. The only time I had ever streamed, I did a Facebook Live with my computer camera. So I had no knowledge of streaming. So I watched a couple of YouTube videos and, kept trying all these experiments and failing miserably. And one day it just sort of clicked. I have to download this program called OBS. That's right. The conduit between my mixer and my computer to broadcast. So once I figured out that there's this thing called OBS, it sort of clicked. And so I think that what really happened was I didn't know anything about Twitch. I didn't know anything about anything. So I did my first broadcast on Facebook Live, but I had set up a Twitch in case of anything, right? And so I did the Facebook Live and a broadcast for 45 minutes and kept getting these notifications that I'm playing copywritten music and it's being blanked out. And the hour was done. I don't know if they limit you to an hour on Facebook Live, but we got kicked off. And so I wrote in the comments, we're moving it over to Twitch. So enough people shared that with other people that we had 1,000 people listening on Twitch within 45 minutes. And I DJ'd for 9 hours that day.
It's unbelievable.
And totally not ready, totally unprepared, totally my music wasn't organized or anything. And but I just loved it. I was just like, wow, the connection that you have with people is really incredible on this thing. And I just had to do it. So every day for the next 14 days, I found some way to stream using Twitch. And that's kind of how I built Club Quarantine, was just being there for people, when they really, really needed it. And I needed it. So it was like kind of like a symbiotic relationship. And, I just realized that I'm just a DJ addict.
9 hours is, I don't do anything for 9 hours, maybe not even sleep for 9 hours.
Right. I might have done one set in my house for 9 hours once before. I had never DJ'd for that long either. And so it was just the adrenaline, the encouragement from the people in the chat room. It was just also what I needed at the time. So that's kind of how it started, and it's sort of grown from there. I mean, we didn't have any community things. We didn't have any emotes. We didn't have any, we didn't have anything for our first, few broadcasts, really.
Yeah.
And, I'm still learning about Twitch, even to this day, now having logged over 500 hours over the last 4 months.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And I definitely do pay for it.
You feel it afterwards.
I feel it. Like, it reminds me of when I used to party in my 20s.
Yeah.
And then the next day, you're just like, whoa, what did I do last night? Oh, I did 7 pills.
Yeah. Why do I feel so bad?
Yes, exactly. Why does my heart feel so bad? If I might quote Moby.
Yeah, I remember stepping over Moby at more than one party. I love his straight edge, his straight edge attitude. But I remember these 3-day parties in Manhattan, and you'd be coming out and stepping out of the party like, oh, that's Moby on the floor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he's another chromie.
Oh yeah, he's one of the original chromies.
Yes, he is. Actually, I go way, way back with him. He was.
Were you a New Yorker?
I'm from Connecticut.
You're from Connecticut, so you're like East Coast.
I'm East Coast. When you met me at Groove Radio,
right?
I had just moved to LA. Like, I'd been there for maybe 6 months to a year, and but I was just an East Coast transplant, just trying to make it work. Yeah. And I'm glad that I did, because
Swedish Eagle's still doing his thing. I'm impressed with him. He's out. How many years has it been? You think he's been doing it? 30 years?
Between K-Rock and Groove Radio and Mars FM and GrooveRadio.com and like being on Sirius XM, he probably has a good 40 or some odd years. Wow. I think he started in the 70s. So I think it's actually more like 45 years.
That's amazing.
Uh-huh. He is what you would call a legend.
No doubt.
I think that word gets thrown around a lot. And but he is truly a legend.
I mean, he's been such a good supporter of mine my whole career, from Ming and FS days to currently. He still supports my house music and all this. It's powerful, and he's he knows his music, and he's a good guy.
At the end of the day, I believe that Swedish Eagle, like me, is just driven by the next great record. Yeah. And like when I find the next great record, it's just like everything feels right in my world. And I believe that he's the same way. And like when I worked for him, he was always like, David, did you find anything good today?
Well, yes, so Swedish Eagle. That's exactly what he sounds like. But
I found this song called Sandstorm.
Yeah.
We should play it. Oh, great. Bring it to the music meeting.
You did not bring him Sandstorm.
Yes, I did.
Oh my God, I love it.
Uh-huh. I found it on story. I discovered it on Napster.
Oh, you did not. That's amazing.
Yes, in the Groove Radio studios, I used to basically spend all day on Napster finding music. Like I would like look at charts and I would look at playlists from Pete Tong and then just try to go search for the songs on Napster.
I love it.
And
You were bootlegging for a radio station.
yeah, I was, and I'm not ashamed to say it either.
I mean, it's underground music. You have to find it how you find it. I mean, that's back then. Digging was hard. I mean,
well, it was a brand new form of digging, like finding names and then searching names and finding labels and searching other artists on those labels. Like that really started with Napster.
yeah.
Before there were algorithms, like when you go on Beatport and it says users also bought, and then the Beatbot says Beatbot suggestions. I mean, this was really like the foundation of that style of music searching.
Yeah. I remember how slow it was, though. That's the thing that I remember being like, this is painfully slow to get like MP3s. I mean, now we don't even think about it. It's just,
Right. Well, I mean, we had a T1 line at Groove Radio, so
oh yeah.
If somebody had a fast connection, it was good. But generally, everybody was still on 56K, so it took a few hours to download a 4, 5, 6 minute song.
My kids will never know that dial tone of the. Remember when you used to call in that with that? It was the worst sound ever. The worst.
It sounded like a digital murder.
It did sound like a digital murder. It was like, why is that the sound?
Yeah. Oh, don't mind. They're just building a house next door.
That's all right. Last week they were trimming the hedges, and I had to do it. My internet was down, and I had to do it from another house. And they decided to trim the hedges just as soon as I started with Chopper Dave. So I can barely hear it though. They have like good compression on this Instagram Live stuff.
Nice.
So Club Quarantine now moved. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday.
And Tuesday. Why Tuesday?
Because I'm an addict and I have to DJ. And I don't know why I didn't choose Wednesday, which seems more equidistant to Sunday and Friday. But I think that I looked at the numbers, and Tuesday had better numbers than other days of the week that weren't weekends.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I chose it. I also have to, manage a schedule with my daughter's mother.
Yeah.
So I took that into consideration too, to come up with the schedule. I wanted it just to be fair enough for everybody. Fair enough. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's juggling family during this time has been very difficult. I think all around.
I think that's a universal problem with anybody who has children. Is that any parent has become, a teacher, a parent, a playmate, a cook.
Yeah, my daughter had a meltdown a week and a half ago on a Sunday and she was freaking out. She's 5. And at the end, like at some point in her meltdown, she was like, I just need a schedule. I just need a schedule. That's literally what she started saying. My wife and I were like, oh, because she has a schedule, but for a 5-year-old, like unless you nail it down for them every day, they can't remember that they had one yesterday or that they didn't want to do something or whatever. It's difficult for them. She's used to be in a classroom where she's being pulled out.
Right, and we are creatures of routine.
Yeah,
and Michelle Richardson is saying they thrive on routine. She's one of our dedicated listeners, Mitch Rich 22.
Someone asked you what was your favorite set. I noticed that question came up before. I don't know if that was a Club Quarantine set or just in general what your favorite gig has ever been. I don't know what they asked.
I think probably the Club Quarantine sets. And I think that every time I do one of my like extra extended Saturday classic sets are my favorite sets. Because, I mean, I think the reason why I play way longer on Saturdays when I play classics is just the memories attached to all the music that I haven't heard in years. Yeah. It's like extremely sacred to me. And that keeps me going even regardless of how tired I am. Like the thought that half a day passes and here I am still playing music is just crazy to me.
I mean, in a lot of ways, I see when you go live and I tune in here and there, you know, to like check out and listen to things. But with two kids, I feel very selfish doing it. So
Right,
like
yeah.
if I was to play for 5 hours, even when I do an hour here and an hour there, funny for me is like the way that I delineate my family time, because obviously when you're a musician, you're always working, right?
Uh-huh.
So I get up, I work out. I usually drop the kids off at school, and then I work. I'm in my studio from 9:30 till 5 or 6 o'clock, and then I do dinner for my family. My wife comes home from work. The kids come home, and that's usually the thing. So I don't generally, I cut it off at a certain point. I don't just continue to do music stuff. Like you could just go back in the studio and work until 2 in the morning. So when I'm home and I'm not playing gigs, I don't tend to DJ. You know what I mean? I'm not DJing like on my extra time instead of watching an hour of TV with my wife or just hanging out.
That was literally my life until quarantine. I mean, I would do my work, and then the minute my daughter came home, it was like everything's off.
Yeah.
And I would take care of her. I would cook meals. I would, do everything that I need to do in the house. But I didn't go on Beatport. I didn't do any music stuff. And I mean, there's parts of it I do feel are good, because I think that now my daughter fully kind of understands what daddy does. She just knew that daddy is a DJ and plays music.
Right.
But now she's actually seen it, and she's sort of like, it's in her life now, because, half of our house is a DJ booth.
Yeah.
She, I think that she has a lot more respect for what I do, and has a lot more understanding.
Yeah, it's funny. My son's 8.5 now, and he's a Minecrafter. So we got him. Like I have 2 sets in that Minecraft festival thing that's going on. It's like the R Block Minecraft, millions of artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he missed the set this morning, but it comes back on again on I think 4 or 5 on Sunday.
Right.
And so he's really excited to be in there doing it with his friends and like being able to go to this like Minecraft rave.
That's cool. My daughter just got into Minecraft. She got into Roblox first.
Roblox, right.
And then she somehow heard maybe from one of her friends about Minecraft. And so she checked out Minecraft. And Roblox has just been like totally not even played with since. And
he's into the coding and all that other stuff. He's like doing Minecraft camp this summer.
Nice.
Cool.
I mean, that's really awesome. That and this is a reason why I don't get too weird about her having a device in her hand, especially now when I'm like constantly running around doing 10 different things at any moment. Is that I think even though there's a lot of social problems with being on your device all the time, I think that it's setting her up for maybe a job in computer programming one day, and love and respect of devices and what they bring. And I think that that's going to become ever more important as she gets older.
We have the same. We try to limit the screen time in general, but now that the quarantine is, and the kids don't have camp and they were on their devices for school, we've really had to be more laxed about that and find positive things that he can do. So he does 1 week of chess camp, and then we also have him doing like tutoring, school tutoring. So he like meets with the teacher for a couple hours, does writing. He's like, we continued school on. We didn't stop. We were like, there's no other way we can do this.
Right.
We can't it's not as full. And then 1 week he does chess, another week he does Minecraft. And it's been super positive. It's harder for the younger one, for my daughter. She doesn't dig it so much. But
yeah, well, I think that when they're 5, they can't really grasp some of the concepts of playing these games yet. I'm blown away by her ability to just navigate on Minecraft. I was just watching her last night, and I'm like, she's maneuvering through the 3D environment and totally understanding every nuance of every shape and direction. And she's just like totally like, I gotta build my windows. I gotta do this. I gotta dig a hole. I gotta do this.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's very empowering for them because it's not just building things. It's a community. They have to take care of animals.
Right.
And they have to, they learn coding so they can do, like, if you turn a switch, it do X, Y, and Z. It's very interesting. I didn't realize it was so in depth. I had a funny interaction with Simon Dunmore from Defected Records. Yeah, he posted a tweet hating on the festival, basically, like, posted a picture. That one festival flyer that's got, like, quintillion names on it.
Yeah.
And he said, if this is where DJ culture is going, I'm glad I lived like something like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was hating on the festival.
Right.
And I responded back to him being like, yo, that's really not cool. First of all, during quarantine, this is the best that people are still trying to find a community. And my son is super excited to be able to hear me DJ in Minecraft with all his friends. He's never going to a rave at 8.5 years old.
Right.
And D, like, why would you hate on something that's so positive?
I think it's because of the first day, maybe.
What?
The first day, yesterday, I guess they came online and they weren't ready, and there was a lot of problems, and then, like...
No, he was just hating on the concept.
Oh, the concept. Right, okay.
Like it's not...
I mean, how can you hate on something that's actually trying to bring people together?
I don't know. And then, of course, because, like, I'm swimming against the tide on Twitter, basically calling him out on his shit. Like, why are you being an old man? That's not cool, right? And not cool Defected is all about community and culture.
Right,
how
definitely.
You're gonna hate on this other culture? I don't know. It really rubbed me the wrong way. But he got a lot of likes on being. His response was, "You hate," and some other things like, took my words and turned them around. Wasn't what I said to him at all.
Right.
But I don't think that people realize that music discovery is for children is going to come from the games, the Spotify, the things they do online. My son has like a whole world has opened up to him through Spotify.
Definitely.
Like, he's building his own playlists. He knows my music from Spotify. I've never played my son music on like here's Dad's music.
Right.
He goes in and he'll later on he'll tell me, like, hey, I like this song, this one you did with Fred, or I like this one here. I remember when you were working on that one in the studio. I think that's pretty cool, right? I'm not
definitely.
it. He's finding it.
I mean, and I think that what they're doing with this Minecraft festival is showing that music and virtual worlds can be combined.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, the fact that they can't actually play the music in Minecraft is a little strange. I was actually going to tweet this morning, I guess we could get Sasha and Digweed on the Minecraft festival, just put on a Sasha and Digweed set and roam around the Minecraft festival.
Totally.
So
someone's asking here, and I don't know if you can see the same questions that I'm seeing, but someone asked, Dresden and Ming, I'd love to hear your thoughts about MDMA mushroom use in the rave scene. It's from Tyler.
Yeah, I did see that one. I definitely am not one to tell people what to do, and I have definitely partaken in many illegal drugs in my life. So, and I feel, even though at one point in a time the drugs definitely were a problem for me, that I wouldn't be who I am today musically without the exploration that drugs were allowed me to do. Like, to expand my mind. And, like, before I'd ever taken a pill, I thought trance was boring, right? and then I took a pill in 1997, and I heard trance at that same event. And I was like, oh my God, I fucking love this music. I totally get it now. And it became my favorite music. So, and I mean, that informed a lot about my music career moving forward. So I am not anti. I would like to say that if you're gonna party, be responsible. And if you find that you're getting in too deep, that you need the drugs, then that's definitely something you need to examine.
Yeah.
Like,
See, I
need the coffee, like. Luckily, I don't lose anything from drinking coffee, really, except maybe my kidneys. But you know, it's sort of like what is right for each user, I think, is where you need to like look at.
I mean, I love hallucinogens. I think hallucinogens are an amazing way of understanding the connectivity between everything. I mean, that's always been one of my, you know, like I liked acid over mushrooms personally, but that connect, like feeling the world, you know, the electricity of the world when you're in the middle of a big trip has been a big influence on my music making and my life in general. So I'm pro anything that helps you open your mind. I don't have any value judgments on doing drugs. I think that there are drugs that you can do that are not necessarily conducive to a healthy lifestyle.
Definitely.
And you know, too much of anything is not good. But I do think some drugs are better for, you know, an open mind. Hallucinogens do that for you. MDMA definitely does that for you in its own right.
Definitely.
And I really think the world would be a better place if everybody trips at least once. But that's a whole other conversation.
I mean, I fully agree with you, and I think that, like, you know, I mean, the whole conversation about, you know, marijuana and why it was illegal for all these years to protect us. You know, I think that most people have learned that was BS.
Yeah, that's a lie. I mean, that's a straight up just monetary, you know, lie.
Right.
The lobby makes marijuana illegal so that the alcohol, you know,
right,
and tobacco producers can make more money. That's
Definitely.
Straight up what happened. I mean,
and that just goes to show you the power that big industries have. And you know, there was a lot of racism involved too with marijuana's legality. So, and you know, like there was a lot of fear that when Washington legalized it and when Colorado legalized it, that there would be an uptick in crime, and that just hasn't happened. In fact,
I mean, when was the last time you were high? I mean, honestly, it's such a non-weed smoker thing to say. I've never been high, been like, I want to do crime.
Right. No.
I don't want to get into a fight with anybody. I don't want to do anything. Like, I just want to dance or eat or sleep or be happy or be with my friends. I've never felt any other emotion from being high than basically positivity. I mean, every once in a while you get paranoid, but that doesn't make you go then, you get paranoid and then you go do something bad. No, you
bug
out.
Yeah, you just curl up in a ball and wait for it to end.
You go look for cuddles.
Yeah, I mean, for me, marijuana makes music sound so much better. And like every time I take a break from it and I don't need that shit to make music sound great. I'm cool. I'm fine. And then I smoke pot and oh my God, this track is the most amazing thing ever. I mean, there's not one track that I've made that I haven't, put to the weed test before it, was submitted to the record label.
Yeah, I would say this to you, and it's funny because I just listened to your album before this conversation, and I haven't done this with anybody else I've done a re-up with. I haven't listened to their music, like haven't done any homework. I haven't had time to listen, to your album. So I was like, I'm just gonna listen to it. It's a beautiful, windy day, and I can hear the hallucinogens, and I can hear all of that stuff in your music. You have all this weird little random bits and pieces that are just floating around, on top of the beautifully constructed songs and, tracks and all that. You've got all the crazy ear candy in there. And I love that because that's something that we did as MING and FS is that we put in things that you may never hear.
Little details.
Unless you're high.
Right. Well, one thing that we love to do is record real sounds. Like I'd be out here recording those birds chirping. And, you'd get the whole environment, like that, the highway noise that you hear, that could also be part of the bird chirping sound. And you put it in a song, and it brings a realness to the sounds that you wouldn't get if you just had a drum beat and some percussion going on. And that's something, little details like that. We love that too. And there's multitudes of reasons why we do that. And, part of it is just to musically document moments that were special.
Yeah.
But also just, give people who are listening with headphones some extra, candy, as you would say.
My wife just said hello. Is this the first one you're watching, Jackie?
Hey, Jackie. Welcome to the broadcast.
Welcome to the broadcast. She's always like, what is he doing in there? What is he doing?
Yeah. My girlfriend now, she's like she's a DJ. I mean, she's not a DJ by trade, but she's a DJ by hobby.
Uh-huh.
And so she never asks what I'm doing. But my ex definitely, she knew what I was doing, but it was annoying to her a lot.
Maybe that's why she's your ex.
I mean, she definitely came around at a time where I needed a woman like her. She gave me a beautiful daughter. And then that was it. And I think that she was secretly hoping that I would give up on music. And I mean, I'm not qualified for anything else. I'm qualified to be a Starbucks barista. No disrespect to Starbucks baristas, but I mean, I'm just not qualified for anything else. I mean, I could be a toll taker. No disrespect to toll takers. But I've been doing music since I graduated high school, so I have no other experience.
I mean, it's been you were at Groove Radio programming, right?
But, yeah, I was doing the music direction, and some of the we were doing promotions and things, but everything was music related there, and that was the only actual real job I ever had was Groove Radio.
Yeah, when did Gabriel and Dresden take off enough that you were able to sort of like just really focus on that as yours?
Well, Gabriel and Dresden actually happened because we needed, both of us independently needed something. Josh had started a tech company and partnered with another bigger tech company, which had a board of directors, and then all the fun had gone out of it. So he quit this tech company to focus on music full time, right? And then I was working at Groove Radio until Clear Channel bought Groove Radio.
That's right.
And Clear Channel bought Groove Radio, and then started cutting off the hands, and then the arms, and then the legs, and then they just let everybody go. I was like part of the the last crew to go. But I had that whole summer before G&D started that I did not have any employment, no money coming in. And Josh was in a similar boat. And that's not why we came together. We came together because Pete Tong, who had asked me to do some music scouting for him, wasn't really paying me. He was like, you've been really great, a great asset for me and great asset for the Essential Selection. Here's a remix that if we accept it, you'll get paid X amount of dollars for. And I I didn't have any studio experience at the time, so I really wanted to explore making music with Josh, and so that gave me the opportunity to do it. And then literally on the first day that we made music, 9/11 happened. And so it was like we were both, unemployed, and it was a scary world. And so we kind of looked at each other and we were kind of like, we got to make this work.
That's crazy.
We didn't really say that.
I didn't know that you guys had started after Fred and I had started making, been doing music. I don't really remember.
Yeah, because that was 20 years ago.
That
was 20 years ago. So, I mean, I'm not sure if 9/11 had happened, would G&D have happened? Or, had we both been unemployed, had G&D happened? It was just the perfect storm of things. And then we realized that we had a good chemistry in the studio, and that like my DJ experience combined with his studio experience made a better whole than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
And then, like from that one remix, we had landed, 3 others before we could even like blink. And so it was like, okay, well, the next project. And I was living in LA at the time, so I would drive up to San Francisco and sleep in his guest room all week. We'd make their music. Then I would drive back to LA, have the weekend, and then I'd come back on Sunday night and we'd do our next project. And this lasted for a year and a half before we actually said G&D is a thing.
I mean, you put in the work.
It was as entrepreneurial as it gets.
Yeah.
And it was just, I mean, I liken what's going on now to this, the situation that happened after 9/11. I mean, 9/11 was a little bit more encapsulated because it affected less people directly. But, I think that everybody was equally scared after 9/11 about what was happening to our country and how are we going to move forward from this and what is life going to look like? And I think that we're sort of back in that place. And so the success of Club Quarantine, just to like tie it back to that, is like, it's interesting that like our biggest successes seem to happen as a result of the bad things that are going on in the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, maybe that's what music is about. It's about
Yes.
taking that energy and creating something positive from it. I had an interesting conversation with an indie rock musician the other day, and I'm wondering if, how everything has become very image driven, even in our scene, even in the electronic music scene. Like a lot of the young up and coming.
It's the reason why I shaved before this conversation.
They're all really good looking. They're young. It's like a different thing than when you and I got like electronic musicians. It was all about just the music. There was no real image thing, and that's changed over time. Yeah, I mean, there's always been an image, but it's not like the way it is now.
Well, because we're constantly have to like post our image. Like back when Ming and FS was a thing, you had one photo shoot that lasted you for 2 years, and that was the only photo people saw of you.
Yep.
And so like nowadays it's like, we're documenting our daily lives practically for everybody. And, we are actual public figures now. Whereas before we were public figures, some of us, but like most of us weren't. We're just dudes making records.
But what I'm wondering is, with this thing happening where now we're not even sure what's going to happen with live music forever and with how music is getting digested, will bands that are ugly as sin have a better chance of coming out because the image is now, what's more important is really the output.
Right. I mean, that's a really good, interesting question. And I wonder how you would actually go about
No, but I'm serious. Like, do you remember, like, if you listen to all that great music from the 60s and 70s...
Right, yeah.
The musicians are just scraggly weird. Doesn't matter what they look like. They could have messed up teeth. They could be whatever. And, the music spoke for it. Maybe they had a look. The look could be a bunch of ugly dudes with beards, but at least they sounded good. But the 80s came in, and the image started driving music sales.
Like, there was no Hairspray in the 70s, really.
Right.
It was once MTV came along and you had to be sexy.
Right, but now I'm wondering if you don't have to be sexy anymore. I'm serious.
I guess it'll be interesting to see, like, I mean, at the end of the day, you still do have to be kind of sexy because social media still plays such a huge role in our lives. Hence why we're here. You're constantly having to uphold an image. Like, I actually have looked better in the last 4 months than I probably have in the last 5 years because I constantly have to look good. Like, I used to shave once a week, and that was like Thursday night before I'd go on tour. And now I have to shave every damn day. So, I mean, I have to order clothes, and I have to I have to look good because that's part of the thing that I'm selling. Is that
I agree with that, and I disagree with what you're saying. And I will say, because I think Gabriel and Dresden, you guys have a fan base and make music that I think people really care about the music, and they don't really care if you came on wearing a muumuu. You could cut a hole in a trash bag and DJ like that every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I don't think your fans actually would care. I'm really serious about that. I think there are other people who would care, but I think that's beautiful.
This is an interesting observation because, like, around the 2013-14 era of dance music, I felt so ugly compared to, Afrojack and like,
I get it.
name it. You name it. They were all sexy and they were all younger. And like, I felt so ugly and so old and so like, who wants to hear from this old dude, And I think that there was a feeling in the industry that nobody wanted to hear from old dudes.
Well, I think there's a huge ageism issue in our industry. It's like everyone wants our experience, but they don't want to put the marketing muscle behind the guys who actually can do this. They want the young, exciting, fresh
And I think
slice of
that's
bread.
why ghost production has become such a huge part of our game.
Yeah.
Because, guys like us have 20, 30 years of studio experience now. And then these young, sexy dudes, who are, have mommy and daddy's money, can afford to pay for ghost production.
I mean,
But I think that that's going away. I honestly do. I think that, COVID is sort of like a forest fire. And this might sound controversial, but COVID is kind of like a forest fire for our industry. And I think that the strong are going to survive. But I think a lot of the fluff is going to, and, fluff is, of course, an opinion. But, a lot of these dudes that never actually went in the studio to make music, but could pay 10 grand to have a song produced, they ain't going to survive.
I agree with that to some degree. I mean, I have. So I tried the line of my personal career has been electronic underground music. That's what I do as an artist, whether it's whatever it's always been. So that's one part of how I make a living. The other part of how I make a living is doing big pop records and doing major label stuff and doing productions for bands and, like doing all that other stuff. So for me, as a producer, I've always been used to being the band in the box, being the guy that helps you make your album, being the guy that helps you realize your vision, whether you can do all the stuff that I can do or not. So when ghost production started happening in electronic music, I found it really funny that somebody was going to pay me to make their techno track. I was like, you're really going to pay me to make that for you? That you're supposed to make that because you love that music, not because... But then the other part of it that I realized was not everybody is as fortunate to have found their partners or the person that helped them learn how to do this.
I feel incredibly lucky that I found Josh Gabriel. I've never found another person that I gel with musically as good as I gel with Josh Gabriel.
Yeah, but I mean that's and it shows. But also, I came from playing in bands, so for me, music was this huge community of like being with people and spending time with people and really like having those relationships develop. So it's always been very important in my life. So I don't really mind helping people realize their visions. As a ghost producer, I do mind when they start doing things like pretending, going on and doing like technical videos and stuff about how they produce things and do that kind of really pretending. Like, I have an issue with that. That's where I start to get where I'm like, dude, I made that track for you while you were flying to somewhere else, and you're now pretending you're talking through the session, pretending like I'm like, that's where it gets a little crazy for me. It's like, just DJ and make the money and be quiet.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, you have to uphold an image. And so it's sort of like with that fee that you got paid, unfortunately, they have to keep the lie going. I just found out a few dirty secrets the other day about the techno game, and I was like shocked.
So come on.
I'm not naming names, but there's a lot more ghost production in techno than you.
Oh yeah, you kidding me? It's the same as everywhere else, dude. It's the same as everywhere else.
I had no idea.
And techno is like, I hate this. Techno is like a Republican at this point. That's how I'm going to put it out there. They say and do the exact opposite of what they're actually doing. Like, it's the most underground, the most pure music. There's so much ghost production, so much fakery, so much image jocking in that world. That, like, for someone like me who's been through a couple of decades of music, like, I don't get involved in the he say, she said of all that because I know, because I'm making music for people. But, I always have an issue with my music is more real than your music concepts. I really don't think that's cool.
Right.
I think music is supposed to make people feel good or feel whatever, and that's what it is. And however it gets made, it gets made.
There's a certain artists out there. There's one artist that I really love that I was like blown away that they don't do their own music, but there's a quality control through different ghost producers that they use that I think maybe they do bring like to the table. So
some guys are really good A&R people, and what they need is they need people to make the ideas for them, and then they A&R the tracks. They're not even coming.
I've learned how to make my own music like from the ground up, but like for the first 10 years of G&D, I relied on Josh to get the idea.
Same with FS. I mean, I had production. I knew production stuff before I met Fred, but Fred he's basically was my school. He's the guy I learned how to really produce from, and then from there I went on and like created my own techniques and moved on from that. Right. But everybody has the person they can point to. I mean,
definitely.
We had our roles.
On the first track that I made with Josh, I used to call them beats and not bars.
Right.
I was like, we need to do 32 beats. He's like, oh, you mean 8 bars? And I'm like, what's a bar? He's like, 4 beats. I was like, okay, I have to learn that language, And I was like, I like the echo. He's like, oh, you mean the delay? And I was like, what makes it all fuzzy? He's like, oh, the feedback. And I was like,
but everyone has to learn. I mean, now like I teach production online too to people, and I always say to them, make sure you YouTube that stuff before you take a lesson with me, because the answers are out there. Like, go out. I didn't have that when I was coming up, but I'm like, go out, and then when you can't answer the questions yourself, then ask me those questions, or ask me why this is the answer. If you don't know, don't just come to me with like, because it's like I can give you my expertise, but if you're not asking the right questions, then you're not going to really learn from it.
Definitely.
And I YouTube things all the time.
Right. Same.
Something will come up and be like, someone has probably gone through this before. How do I do it? Or I posted to like a Logic forum the other day to solve some problem that I'd never had before. And within 2 minutes, I got an answer, and I was like,
yeah, it's so incredible that like there's pretty much the answer to any question can be found in a YouTube tutorial if you have the patience to sit through it. And in my case though, Josh didn't have the DJ experience, so it was like, he'd been making music with computers since the 1980s, and I had been DJing in clubs since the 1980s. So we really just pooled our resources together to come up with one act that could both DJ and make music together. And like he learned how to DJ from me, and he actually did know how to DJ before me, but he wasn't necessarily very good at it.
Yeah.
And so I taught him a lot of the techniques of DJing, and also the construction of an intro and an outro on a track, and like how long the breakdown should be depending on what type of a record we're making, how long the dance floor will, stay paused, and how to build it up, all that stuff. We discovered that stuff together. So, I think that in our situation, it was, again, like I said, the sum of the parts.
100%. So let me do something where I told you this hour was going to go really fast, and there's all kinds of people posting questions. I always ask a bunch of random questions that aren't so random anymore.
Okay.
That just answer them. Don't think too hard, and I'm not judging. I just want you to answer them. All right.
Okay.
Faith or science?
Science.
Rave or festival?
Rave.
Ocean, lake, or desert?
That's a hard one. I like all of them, but I'd say, there's something special about the desert.
Acid or mushrooms?
I've never had either.
Big room or small room?
You know what? I'll say mushrooms, because those are at least nature.
It's all nature, though.
Right. Big room or small? I always would opt for small.
What's your superpower?
What's my superpower? My ears.
How would you incorrectly describe your job?
I'm a dude who plays records.
What animal should survive if only one can survive?
A dog.
Oh, I was going to say cat or dog, but you already answered that. If not music, then what?
Chef.
Favorite meal?
Pasta with red sauce. Keep it
Hunter
simple.
or gatherer?
Gatherer. I don't
What
like
was the last gift you gave someone?
Was the last gift I gave someone? My girlfriend. I gave her a promise ring.
Nice. Do you have a favorite deli? Or in your case, since you're in San Francisco, you could say maybe your favorite burrito place.
No. Let's go deli, man. The Star Deli.
Nice. Do you have a favorite metal band?
I secretly liked a lot of the metal music from the 80s. I didn't admit it. But I actually really loved Bon Jovi.
All right.
I know that they're not necessarily metal, but they were metal.
They fall in the range of the metal range and the hair metal range. So I'll give you that.
I did learn that later on they actually didn't write their songs, that like a really good songwriter wrote all the music.
John Shanks. Yeah, he and John Shanks writes them with Richie Sambora and also what's his name and then the singer.
John Bon Jovi?
Yeah, they write together.
Okay, I thought that the guy Jim Valance wrote them.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tyler, I'm just going to answer this really quick because I see you posted this question. It says, would you be interested in doing a live stream video about what different knobs sliders do on the CDJs? I tried finding stuff online, but I couldn't find anything really. I have an online thing about multi-genre DJing you can search for. I did it for Dubspot years ago, but this is a cool thing. Yeah, it's whatever. Last question, Dave, because we're almost out of time. It cuts us off at an hour.
Okay.
What genre are the Talking Heads?
New wave.
New wave.
I mean, it could be art rock too, but I'd say new wave. They came up in the new wave world.
I've done this, I think maybe 12 times, and I've never gotten the same answer twice.
What's the average answer for the Talking Heads one?
Nobody really. I think everybody's just like good music. They're like, I don't know. People.
New wave was my shit. It literally was.
I think art rock is the right answer, but I think
definitely. But they were lumped into that that world of alternative radio, which was new wave. Blondie, Psychedelic Furs.
all the New York art rock stuff.
Totally.
Right, David, it's about to kick us off, so I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. I'm glad that you guys are safe. Keep doing the club quarantine. It's amazing. And let's catch up soon. I hope some of that music I sent helps.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate all the music. I'm going to go through it now. I have 2 hours before my computer is going to be in use for the night.
Excellent. So everyone tune in. And what I usually do is I download this. I put it back up. I compress the audio, and then I put it in. It comes out on Spotify and iTunes. So I'll let you know when all that's up.
Awesome. That's great, man. It was really awesome talking to you, and I hope to see you at the next Fight Club.
Fight Club. We didn't get to talk about Fight Club at all, but we will.
No, we didn't. But it's probably better that we didn't.
True. All right, man. I'll speak to you soon.
And R.I.P. Bill. We love you, man.
Peace.